is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Make Money and Have Fun show. Today's guest, I'm actually super excited to be bringing him on here. When I first met Brent, my mind was completely blown on a concept that I already knew about. So it was crazy seeing his presentation, seeing what he did. Brent started off as a chiropractor, and today he's an insurance agent, but he's doing insurance way different than most people talk about it. So we got to get into today's show.
My motto in life is make money and have fun. I'm on a mission to show everyone how to make money, and have fun. I'm all about making money and having fun.
So I'm not sure if Brent is much of a dancer, but I saw him doing a little head bob to my rap music on there a little bit. I got a little screen of him down in the corner. But let me tell you more about Brent. Dancing skills aside, Brent is one of the coolest dudes I ever met. He has a killer presentation, absolutely just changing the financial lives across America with the concepts that he teaches in infinite banking. And like I said, he used to be a chiropractor, and he used this one concept to pay off nearly $1 million in third-party debts. But don't listen to me. I want to hear it from the source himself. Let's bring Mr. Brent Kesler to the stage. Brent.
Hey, Fred. How are you doing, man?
I'm rocking and rolling.
Anyway, two things. I love the intro, and I'll tell you the thing that I thought about. Have you ever heard of the song called Vacation by the Dirty Heads?
No.
Oh, you got to get that. You would love that song. Vacation. It's called Vacation by the Dirty Heads. I usually enter all of my live presentations with that song because that's exactly how I would describe my life. And the other thing is, you introduced me as an insurance agent, which I am. I do have a life license. I do produce. I do whole life insurance. But the thing I really do is I help people build wealth through their own debts and expenses through this thing that we call whole life insurance, which is not any whole life insurance, but a specifically designed, specially engineered policy. So really, the life insurance policy is just the vehicle that we're using to build wealth. If there was a better vehicle out there, I would be using that one. And that's what we're going to kind of talk about is how that vehicle is used to do this.
Absolutely. I love what you're doing, Brent. I mean, I saw you come out and present, and I was like, man, I gotta go pick up the pieces of my brain that just exploded all around the room. And I had already known about this concept. I had people teach it to me before, but the way that you break it down and simplify it, I think it's almost an art form. So kind of, let's take us back for a second here. How did all this start for you, right? You were doing your chiropractic thing, and what happened? Talk to us.
Yeah, well, actually, yes. So you are right. I am a chiropractor. I haven't practiced chiropractic in a while. I haven't actually been in an office practicing since about 2009. I had 5 clinics in the Kansas City area. I sold the last one in 2017. I had associate docs in my clinics for all those years I owned it that I wasn't in the office. But the thing I do now is I teach this concept, the infinite banking concept, how to become your own banker, how to build and create and keep wealth through your own debts and expenses that you already have. And actually, the very first time I heard about this, Fred, was back in 2006. And I was actually in a chiropractic conference, and I heard this information presented to me. And I thought, oh my goodness, this is really, really cool. But it just seems too good to be true, right? I'm sure you've seen things like that where it looks good, but it seems too good to be true. Well, that was me back in 2006. So I actually, after that conference, I watched the information, thought it was good, but I thought there had to be a catch, thought there had to be something more to it. So I went back to my normal life. I didn't do anything. I didn't even think about it, really. About 2 years later, I went back to another chiropractic conference, and about 10 or 12 of my colleagues that were at the previous conference with me were now at this conference. Now, the only thing different between me and them is they were actually implementing this process into their own life. They started this concept when they first heard about it. So anyway, I've got like 10 or 12 of my colleagues coming up to me, and they're just ranting and raving. They're throwing up all over me saying, man, Brent, isn't this banking concept the most awesome thing ever to build wealth, keep wealth, to pay off your debt, pay your expenses, all without working any harder, all without changing your cash flow, all without taking any additional risk or losing control, just simply by adding one step in your financial life. So they were going on and on about this. And I thought to myself, there has to be something to this method, right? Because there's no way that 10 or 12 of my closest colleagues are lying to me. Maybe one or two,
Sure,
but not 10 or 12, right? So I went home and I told my wife, I said, honey, we got to start this process in our own life. And it was February of 2008. So a little over 13 years ago, about 13 and a half years ago. And I was $984,711 in debt. The reason I know it to the dollar is because I had to add up all my debts, everything that I owed, almost $1 million of debt. Well, I put this concept into place, and I was able to pay that debt off, Fred, in 3 years and 3 months, a total of 39 months. And all I did is I added one step to my financial life. I didn't have to work harder, change my cash flow, take any additional risk, or lose control. I didn't have to change any stuff that I was already doing, right? I just added one simple step, and it drastically changed my financial life. So here I am in the middle of 2021. I've been teaching this concept now around the country since March of 2012, so a little over 9 years. And that's what I do day in and day out. I live, breathe this stuff every single day, and I teach this concept to others. Exactly the same thing that I did with my financial life.
that's amazing. Such a crazy story. So we actually have Mandy joining us, and she said, wow, that's absolutely staggering. And she said, good afternoon to me and you, Brent.
Hi, Mandy.
But, Brent, I got to agree with her. It really is staggering. When I first learned this concept, I actually sat down with a friend of mine like 3 or 4 times just to wrap my head around this. And I was about, 19 years old at that point. And it's simple, but it's complicated. You know what I mean? It's this thing that, like, once you wrap your head around it, you're like, oh my God, why isn't everybody doing this? But until you do that, it's like, okay, it seems like there's something off here. What would you say to somebody who just kind of doesn't understand this or wants to learn more about this infinite banking concept that we're talking about?
Yeah, well, you're exactly right. I mean, as a matter of fact, when you look at it, it looks just too simple and too easy. And you're thinking, well, it can't be that simple. It can't be that easy. There's got to be more to it, because if this tool really does, right, so the things that I'm telling you it's doing, there's got to be more complexity to it than just like the stuff that I described. But it's really not. It's really simple and it's easy. And it's a concept, Fred, that has been around for over 200 years. The Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the Morgans, the Stanleys, the Barclays, they've all used this concept in their families to build, keep, and create wealth. This is how Walt Disney built Disneyland. Go look it up, right? Yeah. This is how, all right, because the thing is that, so at Walt Disney, okay, way back when, I don't remember what year, but he had this idea of building this thing called Disneyland that we know of today, or Disney World. And however, he needed to get money. He needed to get funds to do it. Well, the bank wouldn't give him the money. He couldn't get traditional means of financing. So he used this concept to borrow the money. That's what he did. So who knows if Walt Disney World would even be here if it wasn't for this banking concept. It's the same thing with Ray Kroc and McDonald's. If you go and you research Ray Kroc, he had to pay salaries to his employees. And during a hard period of time, he had to collaterally borrow from his policy by using this concept in order to do that. He used part of the money to pay for the mascot we know of today as Ronald McDonald, right? So who knows if they ever heard of him? Ronald McDonald, right? It's also like Pampered Chef It's how Pampered Chef got started in the basement of this lady named Doris Christopher's home in Chicago in the 1980s. And then here comes Warren Buffett, and he buys Pampered Chef, I think it was 2003 or something like that, for $1.5 billion with a B dollars, right? Joe Biden, our current president of the United States, you love him or you hate him, Joe Biden tells you he has no savings accounts, right? He doesn't have stocks or bonds or savings accounts. He puts his money into this concept, and this is how he builds his wealth. So the concept that I teach, Fred, is not on trial. It's not being tested. It's not like, let's try it out and see how it's going to work. No, it's been around for over 200 years. So what we're going to do is we're going to simply imitate and mimic what the wealthy have been doing for all of those years. We're not going to reinvent the wheel. We're just going to do what they do, and we're going to build wealth right along with them. And that's exactly what I do in my own life. And I will tell you, so as of we sit here today, July of 2021, I have over 3,700 clients in every state of the country. So let me tell you what I love most about my job and what I get to do every day. I love a lot of things, but this is what I love most. Out of those 3,700 plus clients, nobody is ever mad at me. I don't have clients that are mad at me, because people don't get mad at you when you're helping them keep, build, and create their wealth. And if I do have someone that's mad at me, Fred, they're keeping it a secret. They haven't told me about it.
Well, I got to tell you, I'm a little mad. No, I'm just kidding. I love it. I love it. And you're doing okay for yourself now, Brent. You make like 20 grand a year or something like that, so doing okay.
After I get my stimulus check, it gets about to that.
Right. That's how you're funding today's meeting, right? You're renting that shirt. I love it. I guess I shouldn't talk about shirts. I'm the one wearing the crazy red jacket today.
There you go. I love those jackets. Yes.
I love it. Brent, have you ever read a book called What Would the Rockefellers Do?
Yes, I have read the book. What Would the Rockefellers Do?
It's phenomenal. That book really, that was another paradigm shift that hit me. And for everybody listening, Mandy's still here. She's jumping in. She's loving this stuff. Mandy said, love it. She said, this is all based on a simple banking concept. So Mandy, we're glad to have you here. If anybody else is here, if you guys have questions, ask the questions in the comments. We're going to get into some logistics in a minute, but I want to talk about this book real quick. It's amazing. The author opens up and he talks about two people, Cornelius Vanderbilt and John D. Rockefeller. Most people never heard of Vanderbilt, and Vanderbilt's basically responsible for creating trains and the railroad system, arguably more rich, more wealthy than John Rockefeller while he was alive. Today, his fortune has run out, right? There's no money left for the Vanderbilts, whereas 6 generations later for the Rockefellers, their wealth has actually exceeded what it was while John D. Rockefeller was alive. Why, Brent?
Well, I mean, look, so here's why. Because if you know what's going on in the world, you'll know what to do. And the Rockefellers knew what was going on, so they knew what to do. And so anyway, there's a guy that wrote this book. And again, this is like this book right here, Becoming Your Own Banker, by a guy named R. Nelson Nash. Now, actually, 2 years ago, March 19, we lost Nelson at age 87 years old. But this book right here, Becoming Your Own Banker, is a book that you want to add to your financial library. It's definitely a book. This book completely changed my financial life. And so Nelson Nash used to always say, if you know what's going on, you'll know exactly what to do. See, a lot of us have just been hoodwinked and swindled, and we've been taught the wrong things about money. So let me give you an example. Probably most of us on this call have a 401k, an IRA, or a qualified plan, right? Why do we have those? Why do we put our money into those? Because it's what our parents taught us. It's what our grandparents taught us. It's what our friends, our colleagues, and our coworkers are doing. But let me ask you something about a 401k, an IRA, a qualified plan. Are there any guarantees that money is going to be there when you go and get it out? No. Actually, there is one. There's one guarantee. It's guaranteed to never go below zero. But how exciting would that be if that actually happened? Wouldn't that suck if your 401k went all the way down to zero? Now, who's controlling that money? You or somebody else? Somebody else is controlling it. And how long do you have to leave that money in there until you get it out without paying the penalty?
Forever.
Yeah, forever. Age 59 and a half. And even when you go get the money out, you still have to pay the tax on it. Now, are taxes going to go up or go down in the future? They're going to go up. Is a dollar worth more today or in the future? It's worth more today. And if you ever forget that, think about how many candy bars you could buy 25 years ago for $1, how many you could buy today for $1, right? So all we're doing by putting our money in those plans is we're giving up control of it and we're kicking the can down the road, because eventually you're going to have to pay tax on that money. Instead, what I would rather do is I would rather have complete control of my money and take absolutely no risk whatsoever, have a guaranteed tax-free growth rate that grows every single day. Today's better than yesterday. Tomorrow's better than today. And I want to be totally in control. And I want to pay my tax one time only, at the lowest rate possible. And I want to get the government completely out of my hair.
Sounds like fun.
Our minds are not programmed to think that way, because that is not what we have been taught. As a matter of fact, so when I truly understood this concept, right? So right before I got started, Fred, I was pissed off at my parents and my grandparents because they never shared this information with me. Well, sure. Why do you think they didn't share it with me?
Because they didn't know it existed.
That's right. They didn't know. And that's the problem that we run into right now, is people are so used to following what everybody else is doing. They want to be like everybody else. I constantly tell my children, and I think you've met both of my children, like Zach and Hannah. I know you met at least Hannah, but I constantly tell my children, I say, watch what the masses of people are doing. Watch and see what they're doing, and you go do the opposite. And you're probably going to be doing the right thing. So we can't necessarily follow what everybody else is doing. But also, you got to educate yourself too. Don't take my word for all of this. I mean, there's tons of books out there. There's 200 years worth of research. You know, you can just go on our website, themoneymultiplier.com, and see the testimonials, the success stories, the case studies, the plan design. So don't take my word for it, right? I mean, go and see what other people are saying about us and what we do in this powerful concept. So yeah, man. So when I learned this concept, Fred, I became so passionate about it that I wanted to share it with other people. I mean, I wanted to tell everybody about it, right? And I was telling people about it anyway, right? But I'm just like, man, this is why God put me on this earth, I believe. Yeah, he is to do this. Yes, I went to chiropractic school, and yes, I'm mad at God sometimes, because why in the hell did he make me go through 4+ years of chiropractic school not to use chiropractic, you know? But, you know, as my wife says, she says it's for a reason, you know? I mean, everything's for a reason.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, this is what I teach. I eat, live, and breathe this stuff. And I teach you how to build, keep, and create the wealth you already have. Could you just imagine, Fred, if we could just keep everything that we earned and there was no money being leaked out to anyone else? For example, in my presentation that I'll share with you in a bit, I'll share with you how to watch it. In my presentation, if you remember, Fred, and I know you've seen this because you're a customer of this.
Right.
So remember how I show you how to get all the money back for all the cars you're going to buy, drive, and own?
Absolutely.
So not only do you get the car, but you get the money back. So let me explain briefly. So I don't care how you guys buy a car. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take out this $20 bill that I have sitting here. So here's what you do. Every time you go buy a car, all right, the way that you buy it is only one of three ways. See, I don't even know your listeners, but I know how they buy cars. They either pay cash, bank finance it, or lease it. Well, in order to do that, you have to take the money and you have to give it to the car dealer, whoever you're buying the car from. and they give you the car and they got the money and the transaction is over, right? They have the money, you have the car. Everybody walks away happy. But what if there's a way, Fred, that we can add one step in our simple life, just one simple step in our life. And now when we give them the money, they give us the car, same as before. But now by adding this one step, we're now able to recapture and recycle all of that money that has been going out and leaving our family forever. How cool would it be just to keep just what you already have and keep that money inside of this closed system, which is in your family, right? Where there's no money being leaked out to other people.
Exactly. Like you said, it sounds too good to be true.
Yeah.
But now here you are hanging out at your lake house and enjoying life.
Yeah. Well, again, it's not just about the lake house, man. It's just about it's just about keeping control. It's not about the stuff that you can buy necessarily, but just think of how much better you can do for even other people when you're keeping that money. I mean, so let me ask you this. How many poor people have you ever met that have added the wing on a church? You know what I mean? Nobody. Right. The poor people aren't adding wings on the church, you know? So it takes money to provide and to do things. And I know some people might think, oh, well, it's not all about money. You're right. Everything is not all about money. I mean, money is not the most important thing there is. I always just say it's right up there next to oxygen.
I'm with you on that. It's funny because, I run my business, make money and have fun. And I tell people, it's like, look, you don't have to be very money driven. You know, for me, I'm working on making $100,000 a month. But for you, if your number is $5,000 a month or $10,000 a month, that's great. You know, do your thing. But remember that it still needs to be there because you still got to eat and you still got to pay your bills every month.
Yeah, you always do. And I always tell people, and again, Fred, you've heard me speak many times on this. I always tell people, I say, look, this concept that I teach is not about you having money, right? Whether you have money or not. I always say it doesn't matter if you make $10 an hour or $10,000 an hour. Everybody needs to break the bonds of financial slavery they don't even realize they're in and start taking control of their own money and their own wealth.
Boom. Mic drop. I don't even have a mic, but mic drop. I love it. So Mandy has a really important question. She wanted to get a reminder. No, not that one. Here it is. She wanted to get a reminder on who the author is of the book, Becoming Your Own Banker.
Yep. Becoming Your Own Banker. It's a book written by a guy named R. Nelson Nash. R. Nelson Nash. Now, this book was written about 20 plus years ago in the year 2000 or 2001, I believe. And the book is fantastic. The book totally changed my life. But now we know things that we didn't know 20 years ago. So we know how to turbocharge this concept, right? So I wrote a book, me, and I know you've met Chris Naugle before, me and Chris Naugle. Chris Naugle's been a colleague of mine so Chris has been a client of mine for several years. And he's now a colleague of mine. And a lot of you may have heard the name Chris Naugle. He's very active in the real estate world.
He was on the show.
What's that?
I had him on the show like a month or two ago.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Yeah, he's had some TV shows, House Hunters, HGTV called Risky Builders. Chris does a Wealth Wednesday webinar every Wednesday. He does a segment called Ask Me Anything every Wednesday afternoon at 4:30 Eastern Time. So if you're not following Chris Naugle, I would highly suggest that you follow him. Chris is a colleague on our team. Chris will tell you that I taught him everything to know about this banking concept. And Chris came from a very a complex financial background. He was a financial advisor for New York Life for 14 years. He was a stockbroker. And Chris will tell you that he never learned any of this stuff until he met me. And Chris was introduced to me by another guy. I don't know. Have you heard of Mike Baird and Greg Hurling? Do you know that?
No.
Well, Mike Baird is out in Utah, and he used to be on TV as well and radio. He had a show, if you're in the real estate world, it was called Flip Man Mike. But Mike introduced me to Chris, and both Mike and Greg were partners in a business and stuff. So So yeah, the cool thing about what we do too is there's no advertising, there's no marketing that we do. You might see us post something on Facebook here and there, but everything is word of mouth. Everything is referral. So yes, right. So there's tons of testimonials and success stories of people that we've worked with for years. I mean, right. So you even know people without mentioning their last names, like Larry and Paul and, people like that. Right.
Sure.
So
yeah, I mean, it was, like I said, I had a friend of mine come to me when I was like 19. He's like, "Hey, let me tell you about this cash value life insurance thing." And I'm like, "Oh, great, another gimmick." And it took like 3 or 4 Zoom calls with him for me to actually be like, "Wait a second, this makes sense." And then when you came there, I was like, "Why is my mind being blown again on this concept that I already know about?" It was nothing new for me, but just the way you presented it, the way you simplified it, and the way you made it happen, I'm like, we got to do business together. And, now we are.
Yeah, we have. How long has it been now? Over a year?
About almost 2 years, I think.
Almost 2 years. Okay, yeah. There you go.
So, I open up my account every now and then and just smile. I'm like, this is fun.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so probably your listeners are thinking, okay, well, what is this really? I hear you talk about life policy. Is it okay if I just briefly explain?
Yeah. I mean, I was going to ask you, what should people do? They just go down the street, buy a life insurance policy, and they're rich all of a sudden? How does this thing work?
Yeah. Right? Well, no, great question. And so no, the answer is you cannot just go down to the guy down the street that sells life insurance. Or I always say you can't go to your brother-in-law that sells life insurance and do this, because everyone has a brother-in-law that sells life insurance, right? No, this is a specifically designed, specially engineered policy that has to be designed for high immediate cash value. And my definition of immediate is within 30 days. So when you put money into this policy, you have cash available immediately within 30 days to start using. So it is a specifically designed, specially engineered policy. Now, the reason you haven't heard about this before is even if you go down to your life agent and say, "Hey, I want to get a whole life policy, but I want to be able to get cash out of it immediately," they're going to look at you and laugh unless they truly know this concept, and not many people do, not many agents do. They're going to say, "Well, you can't do that. You got to wait at least a couple years before you can get any money. At least a year, and then we'll be able to get you maybe a little bit, but not much. And then just in year 2, maybe a little bit more. Year 3, a little bit more." Well, people don't want to wait. You want to start using the money in your policy now. So it's the way we design the policy. Now, a couple reasons that you may not hear about it is because most insurance companies don't allow you to promote this, or they don't want you to promote the policy in this way, because in order to do this, the insurance agent has to take a huge cut in their commission, anywhere from 60 to 90%, 60 to 90%. And the agent is not willing to take that cut in their commission. So again, it's got to be this specifically designed, specially engineered whole life policy, and it has to be in a mutual company, not a stock company, a mutual company. A mutual company means not a mutual fund. Don't get confused with mutual fund. It has nothing to do with the stock market, mutual funds whatsoever. It is a whole life policy. It's not a variable. It's not a term. It's not a universal. It's not an IUL. You do not want to use those policies for this concept. You want to use a specifically designed, specially engineered whole life policy in a mutual company that pays dividends. All right. Now, the company has to allow you to design it this way. Most of the companies you know of and have heard of, they don't allow you to practice this. They don't allow you to design the policy this way. And if you can't design it this way, then it's not going to work. And that's what I specialize in is, okay, I'm the guy that's going to set your policy up. I'm not the insurance company, right? I'm not the company. I am the servicing provider. As a matter of fact, you will never, ever write me a check for a dime, or you'll never write my company, the Money Multiplier, a check for a dime. The way that I get paid is I get paid one way only. I get paid the same way your car insurance guy gets paid or your house insurance guy gets paid. So, for example, let's say you go to John Smith, the Allstate man, to buy car insurance. Well, the check that you write is not to John Smith. You write it to Allstate, and Allstate pays John Smith a commission. So I get paid a commission on the policy that you start, all right? But it's designed in a way to where you're able to use the cash immediately. Now, how are you using that cash? Well, what you're doing is you're taking it out in the form of a policy loan, okay? Because the thing we do is we pay money into the premium. We give that to the insurance company. And then when we take a loan from the policy, we don't take it out of our account. No, we put our policy up for collateral and we take a loan from the general fund of the insurance company. That is great news, Fred. And the reason that's great news is because all the money we have put into our policy plus the growth is continuing to grow at that guaranteed tax-free growth rate. So even though you're using the money, that you put in there, there's no interruption of compound interest whatsoever because you didn't take your money out of the account. You're using the insurance company's money. And I go into that in detail in my presentation. And anyway, just to give you, okay, as far as how to view my full recorded presentation, all you do is you go to my website, www.themoneymultiplier.com. On the top of the homepage, it says resources, and then click on presentation. And there's a full 90+ minute presentation. It has my examples. It has my downloadable. It has my downloadable attachments on there. It has all the plan design as well, and it's all right there for you to view. So you can watch that whole entire presentation, and once you watch that, you'll be like, okay, there's either going to be one of two reactions you have. You're going to react like, that guy's lying to me. There's no way this can work that way. It's too good to be true. Remember, that was me back in 2006. I thought it was too good to be true. Or your other reaction might be, wow, I have to know some more about this. Let me get on the phone. Let me schedule a call with Brent and ask him the questions that I have. And that's what you did, Fred.
There it is.
That's what you did. Because right when you first saw this years ago, you're like, no, it can't be like this. It can't work. And then you saw me come to Langhorne, Pennsylvania, and then come back to Langhorne, and then come back to Langhorne and speak at that event that you know we're talking about, right? And I go there 2 or 3 times a year. If not live, I do it virtual. If it was up to Larry, he'd do everything live. I don't think he's ever put on a mask since the pandemic started.
Don't bring that up. You're
sorry.
a can of worms here. Come on, man.
All right, sorry about that. But anyway, so you heard it. And you're like, okay, man, I got to start doing this. And as you know, I've been talking, at that event where you met me, for several years because you met me about a couple years ago.
Exactly. We got, oh man, I got so much stuff. That was awesome. So first of all, I put the link in the comments. So if you guys are joining us, just click on that link in the comments and it literally opens up right to Brent's presentation that he's talking about. And I need to issue a disclaimer with this presentation. Make sure you bring a Tupperware bin with you to collect all the pieces of your brain that explode after you watch it. Because I didn't have a Tupperware bin on my first day, and it was a messy day. So make sure you do that. And then Mandy's still here. She had a question. She said, is this concept only based in the U.S. or can it be utilized in other countries too, like Canada?
Yeah, great question. I can work with you through my agency if you have a U.S. bank account or if you have vested interest in the U.S. Even if you're from another country, I can still possibly work with you. But if you are from another country, like, for example, Canada, I have a Canadian colleague that I'll turn you on to. And my Canadian colleague does this in Canada. And if you're from another country, just let me know because I have other colleagues in other countries as well. So yeah, not a problem. We'll get it worked out somehow or another. We'll figure out somebody wherever you're from, if it's not
Sure.
the U.S., that you can work this. But if it's Canada, it's super easy. If it's another country, it still can work. You know, it'll definitely work if you have vested interest in the U.S. and you have a U.S. bank account. But sometimes, you know, green cards and things like that, or like I think they call them, right? So like the visas and stuff come into play. But
Right.
I may have other people to connect you with in other countries, depending where it is. If it's Afghanistan, you're probably out of luck. I don't have anybody there. But maybe France or Switzerland, or, you know, I have clients in France, Spain, Switzerland, Italy, things like that.
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah, she's in Ontario, she said.
Oh, yeah, no problem, Mandy. I can hook you up if you need to be hooked up with my Canadian colleague. Absolutely. But if you have any interest in the U.S., then I can possibly help you.
Perfect. That works. So it's funny that you brought up, and I actually watched this earlier today. Another friend of mine does this same thing. You brought up the fact that insurance agents get actually paid a lower commission to promote this type of policy than they would on a regular policy. So it's interesting that it almost follows that same parallel that Chris Nalgal was talking about, where it's like you can lose your license for giving people good advice, in a sense. So I guess for you, it doesn't matter to you. It's more important to help the people than it is to make a bigger commission, or.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, so don't get me wrong. I get paid well, you know, and I'm not doing this, you know, out of the good. I mean, yes, I love doing what I do. Again, I want you to go download that song "Vacation" by the Dirty Heads. That is me precisely. That is my life. Okay. The song "Vacation." I love that song. And it just describes me, but yes, I get paid for the stuff that I do. So yes, I'm doing it because I love people, but if I wasn't getting paid, I probably wouldn't be as passionate about it too. Right.
Sure.
But, however, for a long time, I never got paid. I introduced this to like 41 people, to the guy that I started my policy with. And he finally came to me one day and he said, Brent, he says, I've seen that you've referred me 41 people. And I said, well, Ray, I said, well, you've never paid me a dime for any of those. And I kind of laughed about it. He said, no. He said, all seriousness. He says, you're very passionate about this. You do it very well. You teach others. You're practicing this concept. Great in your own life. You should consider teaching it to other people. I said, really? I said, how can I teach that? He said, well, go get your license, your life insurance license. That's what I have. I have my life insurance license. I'm licensed in every state of the country. And he says, go get your license. And that's what I did back in early of 2012. And I've been teaching this since March of 2012. So really, the thing that I do now, Fred, is I do exactly the same thing I was doing before I was licensed. Now I just get paid for it, right? I mean, I was telling people about it anyway. But let me answer your question. The way the policy is designed to give you that cash value, the agent has to, design the policy where it has what we call paid up additions rider, like on the policy. There's this thing called a base premium and a paid up additions rider premium. Most policies that are designed have very little or no paid up additions rider. It's called PUA, paid up additions, on the policy. That is why you don't have any cash value in year one and not much in year two, because all the money goes into the base premium. When I structure your policy, just a typical plan design, and it's not this way 100% of the time, but a typical plan design might be putting in 40% into the base premium and 60% into the paid up additions, or maybe 20% into the base, 80% into the paid up additions rider. So we've got more money going into the paid up additions than we have going into the base. Well, the commission that the insurance company pays out is really driven on the base portion of the policy. Yes, we get paid a little bit on the PUA, but not a lot. It's on the base premium. So when I design your policy, I design it to where we can get as much PUA rider into that, paid up additions rider into that policy that gives you a higher cash value.
Right.
And the most important thing, two important things, is number one, are you in it for the short term or the long term? So that'll determine how we answer how much PUA we put in the policy. And the second thing is, which is the most important, is you have to design the policy where it does not become this thing that we call a MEC, M-E-C, which stands for Modified Endowment Contract. Now, this thing called a MEC, not that it's important that the listeners know what it means, but just to give you a high level, this MEC thing came into effect back in June of 1988. Our good old government put this MEC guideline into effect, and it says that if you try to overfill that policy with cash, like try to put 100% of PUA cash value into it, or 100% of paid up additions rider, your policy will become a MEC, and it's no longer treated as an insurance contract. It's treated as an investment, and it's subject to taxation. And actually, Nelson Nash talks about the MEC on page 38 of this book if you want to learn more. But when we design your policy, Fred, we snuggle it right up to the MEC line without going over it. So that's how we design your policy. So that's how we take that cut in our commission, because the thing that you want to get is high early cash value. So the last thing you want to do, Fred, is put money into this policy now and wait years to be able to access any of it.
Right. That's the whole idea. You know,
that's
put
right.
it in, let it grow, and play with it along the way.
Well, but yes, you're right. But now remember, when you put it in, you're going to always play with it along the way. So it's going to grow even if you're using it or you're not using it. But the more you use the policy for the things you're buying in life anyway, cars, houses, boats, investments, paying your taxes, charitable giving, I don't care any product or service that you're buying. It could be a house, a car, a bicycle, a cell phone, a tank of gas, a bag of groceries, an airline ticket, a pack of chewing gum. Think about it. Every time you give money to someone for whatever that product and service is, that money has left your family forever. It is gone. It's gone. It's left your family. So by adding this one step in your financial life, Fred, not only are we buying those products and services, getting those products and services, but now we get all the money back. We keep the money. And I show you in my presentation how that's done on a car, how we get all the money back for a car, because the money is growing even though you're using it. And the more you use it, the bigger the numbers get. In this book, Becoming Your Own Banker, page 54, 59, 60, 61, and 62, it's the same person, the same amount of premium is putting into the policy, but each page that goes up, he's using it to finance one more car. So the first one is 0 cars. The next page is 1 car, then 2 cars, then 3 cars, etc. See, he's got to buy the vehicles anyway, right? He's got to buy the vehicles because he has a business that requires vehicles. He has so in the book, it's a real life example. It's actually Nelson's nephew, which he was in the logging business in Georgia, and he owned a logging business. So he had to buy tractors, trucks, and tree shears. So he's got to buy the equipment anyway. By simply adding this one step, not only does he buy the equipment, does he give the money to who he buys it from, he gets the equipment, but adding this one step, he now gets the money back. He gets the equipment and the money. And it is a total financial game changer when you start recycling and recapturing the money that's been leaving your family forever.
So, Brent, let me ask you this question. For the people who are listening that are unfamiliar with this, if I took a loan and collateralized my death benefit inside of my life insurance policy, what are the terms on that loan? Like, how soon do I have to pay it back? Or
you never have to pay the policy loan back, ever. The loan never has to be paid back. Because the insurance company will never lose, because when you take the loan, the policy loan is a prepayment of the death benefit. Your death benefit will always be higher than the cash available, than the loan available. So the insurance company can never, ever lose, because Fred, you and me both, and everybody on this call, we're guaranteed to die, pass, or graduate, whatever word you want to use, right?
Right.
It's not an if, it's a when. So when you pass, if there's any policy loan outstanding on your policy, the death benefit will pay off the policy loan, and the additional money will go to your beneficiaries tax-free. Because see, the loan that it's going to pay off, they've already given you that money while you live.
Right.
So that's why we want you to use your money while you're living. Because believe me, your beneficiaries will get a lot of money in death benefit, but but the loan, but the death benefit will pay off any outstanding loan. So you should be using the money while you're living. There's no sense in leaving everything to your ungrateful children, is there?
Well, I don't have any yet, so I'm not sure,
But no. So a great question. Now, in order to take a loan, you do pay interest, but you pay simple interest, much like a HELOC. And let's just call it 5% simple interest. So that means if we took out a loan for 10 grand and we kept that money for a year, let's say we kept it out for a year. Well, what we would owe would be $500. It's simple interest at 5%. If you only kept it out for 6 months, it's $250. Now, people are thinking, oh my gosh, I got to pay a loan. I got to pay interest on a loan. Well, yeah, you do. You pay interest right now, no matter who you borrow from. When you go to the bank, you pay them back with interest, right? So treat your money like a bank's money. But here's the big key. Here's the big difference. Remember what I said earlier. Whenever you borrow the money out of the policy, you're not borrowing your money. You're simply putting your policy up for collateral, and you're borrowing from the general fund. So the money that's in the policy is still compounding and growing in that tax-free environment. So about 20 minutes or so into my presentation, when your listeners go listen to it, you're going to see where I have 3 calculators on there. Okay, 3 calculators on the screen. Is it 2 or 3? I think it's 3. Maybe it's
pretty sure it's 3.
But okay, 3 calculators on the screen. And what you're going to see is how you can borrow at a higher interest rate than what you're earning all day long and make money. And I use the example of I use the example of like borrowing at 6% and earning 4%. Now, when I tell you that, when I say borrow at 6 and earn 4%, you're thinking, well, Brent, I'm losing 2. No, you're not, because one balance is decreasing, the other balance is increasing. See, our minds think if we borrow at 6 and earn 4, we're losing 2. But that's not how money works. And I prove that to you in my presentation. But also keep in mind, on my presentation, the numbers that I use are worse than what they are in real life, meaning your policy actually performs better than the examples that I go over, because I'm all about under-promising and over-delivering. It is an outside-of-the-box concept. It's definitely an outside-of-the-box concept. That's why, Fred, when people go watch my presentation, the first thing that I show, I think it's on the recorded version too, I don't remember. But if it's not, before you watch my presentation, I want you to go enter in YouTube the backward bicycle. It's about a 7.5-minute video. It's called the backward bicycle. This will get your mind in the right mode. It'll get your mind, because the stuff that I go over with you, it's a paradigm shift. It's not what we've been taught about money. So I always tell you to watch the backward bicycle first before you watch the presentation.
Yep, I'm putting in the comments right now, and I'll bring it right up on screen. Backwards bicycle. That was a cool
7.5-minute video. Just go to YouTube. I didn't create the video, but it's great for kind of this.
It's a really well done video too. The guy's funny. It's really a good presentation.
It is. It'll get you thinking differently, and again, I mean, so it really, I mean, that's what all of this is just thinking differently, and I guess sometimes the skepticism is, well, why haven't I heard about it before? Well, so why haven't you heard about a lot of things,
Sure.
But it's been
IRA.
around. It's been around for 200 plus years. So it's not on trial. It's not being tested. Just think of our tax code. Our tax code never came into play since 1913. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So this concept has been around way longer than our tax code.
Yeah.
The policies, the insurance companies that I write business with have been paying dividends without fail. Now, remember, the guaranteed growth rate is the guaranteed growth in the policy. You will see exactly what that guaranteed growth rate is in your policy before you ever sign, pay, and accept for the policy. And it increases each and every year. It's not me telling you, it's in the policy contract. But then you have this other thing called the dividend that the insurance companies pay. Now, I don't even talk about the dividend because the dividend is not guaranteed. However, every company that I write with has been paying dividends for over 123 plus consecutive years without fail. So even though the dividend isn't guaranteed this year, next year, 10 years from now, do you think if the insurance company, Fred, has been paying dividends for 120 plus years consecutively without fail, there's a good chance they're going to continue to pay them?
I think probably.
Absolutely. Because again, I want you to think of what's happened in the last 120 years, right? I mean, that was back in 1900, 1890. What happened in 1920 and 1930? You know, I don't know if there's ever been a worse time in history. You know, think about the wars, you know, World War I, World War II. You know, think about the wars we went through. See, all those external factors do not affect what's going on in your whole life policy in a mutual company. It doesn't matter if the stock market goes up or down, the housing market goes up or down, if there's protests or riots, if there's a pandemic or no pandemic, if you're a Republican or a Democrat, all of that stuff doesn't matter. You have that guaranteed growth rate inside of your policy that grows tax-free. And the government is completely out of your hair, and you are in control. You are in control. So, Fred, I want you to think about this. How many people have you ever met in your lifetime? I want you to think of all the retired people that you met. How many people have you ever met at retirement age that are happy, ecstatic, excited, elated, joyful about how their 401k, their IRA, their retirement plan has performed for them? You know a lot. Yeah. Now, there may be a couple, but let me just tell you this. Here's who you do know. All your listeners, you know people at retirement age that are out there in the workforce working at retirement age, not because they want to be, because they have to be because of, just for survival, because their 401k, their qualified plan, their retirement, their pension did not turn out the way they were promised or what they expected.
Exactly. So, Brent, I got two more questions for you, and one is more like a statement, but we got to kind of wrap this up. We're getting to the top of the hour here. One of the things that we didn't even mention here, which there's so many amazing pieces to this, but I remember when I first got into real estate investing, we were talking about if you go to Bank of America, they would sooner lend you money on real estate than they would lend you Bank of America stock. And it's almost the same thing with this life insurance where, Bank of America isn't even buying Bank of America stock.
Right.
They're buying more insurance policies.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you brought that up, because anytime you want to go to a conventional bank to borrow money, and if you have cash value life insurance, they love it. They love it. They love it, and they'll gladly take that as collateral, right? So as a matter of fact, banks are the number one purchasers of whole life insurance in the world. They own more whole life insurance than all of their land and their buildings combined. As a matter of fact, since 2013, banks have quadrupled the amount of life insurance that they've purchased. Quadrupled. Now, banks aren't buying term. They're not buying universal. They're not buying IUL. They're not buying variable. They're buying whole life policies in mutual companies that pay dividends. Now, why do you think, Fred, banks are buying so much whole life insurance? Is it because they're stupid, or they know something the rest of us don't know?
They know something the
rest of us don't know. So all we're going to do is we're going to mimic and imitate exactly what the wealthy are doing. We're just going to play the same game that they play. And there's a guy named Warren Buffett. Maybe a couple of you have heard of Warren Buffett. I don't know when Warren Buffett said this, but I remember him saying it in October of 2008. That's when I heard it, and I think about this almost every day of my life. And here's what Warren Buffett said. He said, if poor people would just start doing what rich people do, they wouldn't be poor anymore. How much sense does that make, man? That's all we're going to do is mimic and imitate what the wealthy have been doing for 200 plus years.
So Brent, I got one more question for you. If I wanted to get started in this, do I need to be like making 10 grand a month? Or, what if I come to you and I'm making, 25 grand a year, no savings, no credit cards, anything like that? Can I still get started with something like this?
Absolutely. Like I said earlier, it doesn't matter if you make $10 an hour or $10,000 an hour, right? Everybody needs to break those bonds of financial slavery they don't realize they're in. We have people that put in $200 a month into their policy, and we have people that put in $3 million a year. You just pick a number in between there, right? And the way you can pay the premium into the policy, even if you were ready to start right now, you can't start because we got to get you approved for the policy, right? It took you some time to start. Remember, Fred,
Sure.
when you said I'm ready to pull the trigger?
Yeah.
You had to, the insurance company had to approve you, not necessarily financially approve you, but health-wise approve you. What you had to pee in a cup, you had to give a little blood, right? You had to answer some health questions. But even if somebody is on the call and they're not insurable, maybe somebody has cancer, maybe somebody just had 7 feet of their intestines removed, it doesn't mean you can't do this. You can still do it. You would just own the policy on another individual, such as a spouse, a child, a grandchild, a business partner, someone you have a vested interest in. I have a lot of clients that are not insurable and they own one policy or multiple policies. They just own it on another body, but you are still the owner and you totally control everything that goes on inside of the policy, right? So it doesn't matter where you're at. And so the way you pay your premium, you can always start it and reduce your premium. There's so many different things that you can do. So don't be on the call thinking, well, when I make some money, I'm going to do this. No, man, now is the time to look into this, because the reason you don't have no damn money is because you've been giving it away. Everybody else has been getting your money, right? So don't say, well, let me pay this before I look into this. No, that's the wrong mindset. Get on the damn backward bicycle, right? You got to, because now's the time you got to take control. The reason that you don't have maybe as much as what you should is because the money's been leaving your family. It's not about what you make. So have you ever played that game by the guy that wrote the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki? It's called the Cash Flow Game. It's like a Monopoly game, but it's purple.
Yep, I played it.
Play that game sometime. It's not the doctor, the lawyer, the accountant, all the big like CEO business people that get ahead in life. No, it's the janitor, the nurse, the truck driver. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter how much money you make. It's about the money you keep. And that's what I teach you, is I teach you how to keep the money that you're making. Most people don't know how to keep it. And I work with a lot of very successful people that make a lot of money. But guess what, Fred? Most of them suck ass. I'm going to use the word ass because now you guys are paying attention. They suck ass at keeping their money. They don't keep it. They don't keep it.
Yeah, I'm with you. You know, it's amazing. The little things out there. I remember the first time I learned self-directed IRAs was the same concept, same idea that why doesn't everybody do this?
Yeah.
Brent, this is amazing stuff, man. Dude, I'm so excited to have you here. Did you have fun?
I had a blast. So can I offer your listeners one thing?
Please do.
Okay. Anyway, so here's the book that I wrote. It's called Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery. If you send me an email, just send the email to Brent, B-R-E-N-T, Brent at themoneymultiplier.com. I will send you the ebook. I'll send all your listeners the ebook. And if you really, really want a hard copy, not that you need a hard copy because the ebook is the same thing, but if you really want a hard copy, all you pay is for the postage. It's like $2.80, and I will send it to you in the United States. All you're paying is postage. But I wouldn't even do that. I would just let me email you the ebook portion of mapping out the Millionaire Mystery. So all you got to do is send me an email, Brent. There it is on the screen, Brent@themoneymultiplier.com, and I will send you the e-version of the book. If you really want the hard copy, I'll get you in contact with my team, and I think it's like $2.80 or whatever. You just pay for the postage, and we'll ship it to you.
Nice. I love it. And I even spelled the money multiplier right. Look at that.
You did, man. You did. It took me, it took me about 3 months after I started the money multiplier to figure out how to spell it, but I got it now.
Right. You're like, what did I do? Why would I pick this name? I've done that before. Yeah. So you guys got all kinds of amazing stuff. Go check out Brent's presentation right here. It's in the comments as well. Click on it. Grab a copy of his book, Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery, and go over to his website. Brent, do you have any last final parting words of wisdom for our guests today that you'd like to impart on us?
Well, anyway, Fred, I kind of live by this motto, the late Zig Ziglar, and here's what Zig Ziglar always said. So like Zig Ziglar says, if you help enough other people get what they want, you'll end up getting what you want. So it's my mission, it's my passion, and I'll try to bring a little bit more energy the next time we do this, but it is my passion and my mission to share this concept with as many people as possible. And yeah, I hope you do business with me. I hope I'm the one you choose when you start the policy. But even if it's not, I'm telling you, just look at it. Just get started, because the thing that happens is if you don't start now, every day that passes is one day that you're not getting the growth inside of your policy. Don't do what I did. I waited 2 years to start because I thought it was too good to be true. I kicked myself in the rear end every single day for waiting that long. And here's why I lost money. I actually lost money for my family. And here's why. Because these policies get more efficient with time. So let's just say hypothetically, back when I first heard this information, I had 50 years of life left, but I waited 2 years to start. Well, now because I waited 2 years, I no longer have 50 years of life left. I've only got 48. So I didn't give up year one because I always have to start. But here's what I gave up. I gave up year 49 and 50 because I won't live that long, right? I'm only going to live 48 years now because I waited 2 years. So what I did is I gave up the cash value growth. I gave up the death benefit growth on those 2 years, which comes to hundreds of thousands of dollars that I will never get, that my family will never get because I waited 2 years. So I'm not saying jump right into this. As a matter of fact, even if you wanted to jump in today, it's going to be 4 to 6 weeks before you can even start, because we got to take you through the approval process. And if it's not enough time, 4 to 6 weeks to do your research, to look at all the background of this concept, if that's not enough time, then you're probably not going to do it anyway. You should probably throw away the material and do something else. But yeah, man. So take action and implement. That's the main thing, is the implementation. Don't just go off of a whim. Do the research. Go look at the case designs, so like the case studies, the plan designs, the testimonials, the success stories. Talk to other people that I've been working with for years about what they're doing and how this works in their life. So don't take my word for it. There's a book out there. It's just a book by Joel Bauer, Bauer, and I can't remember the name of it, but so like it has something to do with as far as talking to people, how to influence people. And here's what Joel Bauer says. Joel Bauer says, it doesn't matter how good I tell you I am. I can tell you everything about me. I can tell you all the great stuff, but people live vicariously through the words and actions of others. So if I tell you about me, yeah, you may listen, but if Fred, Paul, Larry, Sandra, Chris, if they tell you about me and their experience they have with dealing with me, then you're going to listen and pay way more attention. So that's why I always recommend go talk to the people that I work with, my customers, my clients, my colleagues, and then get it from them, because they'll tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Exactly. I love it, Brent. Brent, this has been amazing. I'm so glad and excited you came here today. I'm looking forward to making even more money with you, man, because I smile every time I open up my policy now. It's a fun life.
It's amazing, man. It's a financial game changer. So thank you, Fred. Thanks for having me, and thanks everybody for being on. Hopefully we'll talk soon.
Yep. See you guys soon.